Well, good morning, and thanks for taking time to chat a little bit about COVID-19. This has been a radical change to the way we do business on a variety of fronts. I know that the difficulty in a lot of this is the unknown and the uncertainty that this has caused. So what I thought I'd do today is give you a few thoughts. Again, keep in mind, this is the first time we've ever done a virtual town hall. So bear with me, bear with us. Got some great folks on the technology side. We're doing the best we can to keep you posted, keep you up to date, and we'll go for the next hour or so. As we're having this discussion, keep in mind that one of the biggest struggles that I've had in the last several days is how we communicate with employees. I'm open to conversation around that. If this seems to work, this format, this venue seems to work, we can do it again. I'm not going to have answers to all your questions. I'll do the best I can, but I do commit to getting back to you in the near term with answers. Wanted to just kind of let you know several things that are going on. Clearly, this is a pandemic across the United States that we are all dealing with. We're all forced to change the way we do business. The reality for us as an organization, we've talked many times about preparation, creativity, innovation, leadership, all of the things that go into preparing for something like this. And as I mentioned in my note, now's the time for us to advertise or to implement that. Now's the time for us to act and take it upon ourselves and demonstrate the leadership individually as well as an organization. I've been working very closely with Mayor Romero and the City Council. They obviously are working on their fronts. We are working the federal angle to ensure that we take advantage of some of the stimulus monies that are coming forward, not only for our organization, but for our community as a whole. As you know, sales tax is our lifeblood with the shutdown and a variety of businesses and so forth. We are expecting to see a hit there, but we are looking at some of the stimulus monies. Mayor Romero has established a team. We're working very closely with her and with her team to solidify those dollars that are hopefully coming forth. I'll get to the leave in a minute. Those are the biggest questions that most folks have. I think that the key piece here is the confidence that I have in you. Those aren't just words. As you look at what we've been able to do as an organization, we've overcome many things in the past. This is an opportunity for us to rely upon each other, take care of each other, and move forward. To that end, working with HR, working with the city attorney's office, working with the department directors, we've come up with leave to take care of folks. Quite frankly, the horizon was the end of the month, is still that. Let's get through the end of the month. But I will tell you that I don't expect this pandemic or the orders to be lifted at the end of the month. We're just approaching it in an incremental fashion to try to keep things moving, keep us doing the things that we need to do to take care of our community. As I outlined in my note, and I apologize for not only the length, but the complexity of it. These are extremely complex issues. Got a lot of folks that are working hard to bring clarity to the various leaves. The federal leaves, there's multiples of those, and I'll talk a little bit about those in a minute, try to address some of your questions. The magnitude of what we have done in terms of going to virtual city services has never been attempted, at least certainly not in Tucson, and probably not for an organization our size. What does virtual city services mean? Clearly, some of you are doing the same job you were doing 2 weeks ago. Others are doing similar jobs to what you were doing 2 weeks ago. And yet others are doing something radically different, up to and including staying home. I can tell you that I have challenged the directors to ensure that those that can perform work remotely and practice social distancing do so. That's not easy. There are a lot of pieces to that. I've been asked, how are we ensuring that employees are actually working when they're working remotely? Well, I got to tell you, I'm not going to police that. I have absolute confidence in your integrity and your honor that if you are asked to work remotely and you are given assignments, that you will take care of that and you will put in a full day's work. There's no other way for me to do that. I mean, certainly we could try to develop metrics, but at this point, I'm pleading with you to stay on track with that. I have absolute confidence in your ability to do that. And I know that at the end, we'll look back and realize that we accomplished some great things virtually. We have accomplished great things in providing support for those folks that can't work remotely. We have a variety of folks within our organization that cannot work remotely. Our first responders, our fire, our police, our communication staff, our garbage truck drivers, our water folks. There's a variety of folks across the organization that don't have the opportunity. So again, we have to support them, make sure that we're providing them the environment to be successful. And that includes making sure that you do your part to keep them moving and keep them safe. One of the questions that I get asked, and I've been asked probably more in the last couple of days, than it's been on people's minds. I'm sure that it's on a lot of people's minds. Do I see layoffs coming? Do I see furloughs coming? I can tell you I don't know. I wish I could tell you with absolute confidence. The answer is no. I can't do that. I won't do that. I can tell you that that's the last resort. I've talked at length with the council about some of those issues, and I've told them that we have done some good things over the last few years. We've saved up a little bit of money. We have a little bit of a reserve, and we're gonna tap into that. My recommendation will be to tap into that to try to weather the storm as best we can. But I can't guarantee you that there won't be tough conversations going forward. What I can suggest to you is, although we all have the leave, and again, I'll get into that in a second, that leave is there if you need it. It is not there as to be used right this minute if it's not needed. One of the scenarios that has concerned me is if someone burns through that leave and then truly gets sick in a few months, they're going to be out of leave, and then what? So I encourage you to use the leave sparingly. Obviously, it's there for a purpose, so take advantage of it if you need it. I'm good with that, and would encourage you to do that. I will tell you that although we're looking at the next couple of months as being a tough time, I'm also expecting that we may see a resurgence next year during flu season. Those are some of the comments that we're hearing. We're trying to prepare ourselves for that, and just know that it's got my attention, it's got our attention in terms of what that might mean for us. Did want to take a quick minute to talk about our our Emergency Operations Command. We have instituted our incident command structure. Chris Anderson from the fire department is heading that group up. I'm very pleased with the way that has gone. They are taking care of business. They meet daily at 1:30. Most of those meetings are virtual. They're doing everything from tackling logistics to addressing, how we get information out to the community, tracking what the health department is doing, et cetera. I can't emphasize enough how that structure we've instituted has worked very well. We're communicating with our partners, and through that structure, we're making sure there's not duplication of effort. Some of the questions that I've gotten have been with our healthcare providers within the community. Do we have enough hospital beds and that? Short answer is I don't know. I can tell you that the Corps of Engineers, I'll say the military because I think it's either the Corps of Engineers or the National Guard, is here today surveying facilities. They are looking at some of the facilities over by Banner South. They're looking at the TCC. I've also challenged the staff that's reviewing that team to look at our rec centers, look at our facilities that might be necessary should we need additional hospital space. The governor's committed to standing up an emergency hospital in Pima County, so we are working closely with them to make that happen. I'm just looking through my notes here to make sure that I covered the things I wanted to cover. So Lane, that's pretty much my opening comments. If you want to shoot me some of the questions, and by the way, for those of you that are on the Teams app, if you go to the there's two little flags with a question mark. You can click on that and then type in your question, and then I'll get that question. I'll try to answer it as best I can. And by the way, the other piece to this is questions that I can't answer. We're going to work to getting you answers. I'm going to try to get you more answers by Tuesday, by close of business Tuesday. Not sure how we'll do that exactly, if that'll be an email or if we will have another virtual town hall, depending on how this one works out. Let's see here. It looks like we're having some issues with sound. Very choppy audio. Let's see here, we're getting here. So bear with me as I read some of these. So there's a question about city court employees being furloughed and hours being reduced. They're also being forced to take their own leave, make up for lost hours. Was in place for them. They have the same, court employees have the same leave provisions as all other city employees. So I refer you back to my note from a couple days ago that outlines the use of that. I have not had a chance to speak with Court Administrator Silverberg, but I'll do that, make sure that he's clear on where we're headed with that. For those who are working face-to-face with first responders and can't telecommute, what can the city do to help protect us from COVID-19? So really that's a conversation around PPE. Personal protective equipment. I know that I've been working with both chiefs to ensure that we have adequate PPE. I can tell you that our supply is limited. We don't have an endless supply there. My understanding from both chiefs is that they do have enough for the time being, but those are dropping daily. And so we're working through the EOC to make sure we get our stockpile replenished. It's best I can tell you right this minute. I do understand from both chiefs that you do have enough PPE right this minute. So question, what types of leave are available to us, federal versus city? Just very quickly, the city's pandemic leave is 80 hours. I'll refer you back to my note from April 1st. Basically, those folks that are identified by directors as not having remote work and falling into the non-essential category can start drawing that leave immediately. And so I'd encourage you to do that. The federal leave does have restrictions. However, on the 80 hours, and I apologize, I don't remember the exact name right offhand, but the initial 80 hours is a function of a local directive, which we have identified as the governor's action meeting that purpose. So employees can start to drain down that 80 hours as well. Another question is, is it an opportunity to use the 160 hours, which is the 80 hours of city pandemic leave, as well as the 80 hours of federal leave? The answer is yes, but keep in mind that the criteria that I outlined in my April 1 note is how you can use those leaves. I also caution you that the 80 hours of city pandemic leave does require approval by the supervisor. So although everybody has access to it, you cannot just call in and say, I'm taking my 80 hours of pandemic city leave. The question is this being recorded? The answer is yes. We are recording this, and so we'll be able to play this back for you. You can look at this in the future. Elizabeth asked, how can we respond to COVID-19 is important? How should we document and share ways we're dealing with resiliency? So thanks, Elizabeth, for that question. So a couple things. Number one, I think it's important that everyone document any costs associated with the pandemic. Amber Kerwin out of my office is leading the charge in terms of documenting all of our costs with an expectation for reimbursement. So I would encourage you very much so to take care of tracking your cost, etc. There was another question part of that. You guys are asking questions so fast, it's scrolling down my screen here. Will employees who are considered essential and unable to work from home receive hazard pay? So hazard pay is a conversation we're having internally. There are some folks that cannot social distance. I will tell you simplistically that if you can social distance based on your job, the answer is probably not. I'm working through some thoughts on that with the team. I've also been in contact with Pima County to see what they're doing for some of their law enforcement folks that really don't have an opportunity to social distance. And so just be aware that we're working on that. It's too soon for me to tell you anything more than that, other than I'll keep working through that. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to read through these. I'm trying to do these real time. Salaried professional asked, they're not hourly, and is it okay? Why are we asking them to turn in timesheets? I can tell you that the federal government requires timesheets, so please comply with that. Please understand that it's important so that we can try to track costs, and if it makes you feel any better, I'm doing the same thing. I've not been as diligent as I probably should be, but I'm doing the same thing. Let's see here. Question about the CARES Act, and are we going to receive funding from that? Man, I sure hope so, I can tell you. As I mentioned earlier, the mayor has developed a team. We're working with our federal lobbyist out of Washington to make sure we have a thorough understanding. Joyce Garland, our CFO, is heading up our internal financial team, which is dissecting the entirety of those stimulus packages to make sure we can take advantage of it. I can tell you that after the conversation this afternoon, we should have a better idea of some of the fundamental pieces that we can take advantage of. So we're getting on it. Thank you, Elsa. So FFCRA is the Family's First Coronavirus Act. So thank you for the acronym there. I appreciate it. Dean from Tucson Water. Some of us are working from home. Dean just disappeared. What can we do to help? I think the key piece here is do your job. I encourage you strongly to just do the best you can to help out, be responsive to your supervisors. Make sure that if they're needing something from you and you're supposed to be working, that you are responsive. And it's hard, I don't mind telling you. I've been on conference calls and video calls, and I've seen everything from dogs to small kids. Matter of fact, I even brought my grandkid by to say hello to everybody. You know, that's our new normal. And I think it's unrealistic to think that we can provide the great service that we're accustomed to without those other pieces of our life, because it has, quote, disrupted every aspect of our life. So what you can do to help is stay on track, keep doing your part. And by the way, if you have questions that you would like to send to me, please use the city manager email. I've got staff that are looking at that. I don't normally like to do that, but I'm getting inundated. So feel free to send questions directly to that. They'll eventually filter their way to me, and I'd be happy to try to respond to those after this or offline. So there's a question, will positions be changed from essential to non-essential? If so, how can I let City of Tucson know if my position has changed to non-essential? So I have to tell you that we really struggled with the whole essential, non-essential conversation. We opted to stay with the terminology only because it mirrors what the feds and the state are telling us. But I believe that all of you are essential. I think that, quite frankly, find it almost disrespectful to assume that there are folks that are not essential. But I will also tell you that we have to look at it in terms of what is the type of work that can be performed either remotely or in another format if you can't do your job today. So, for example, if you have a job or a role that the program has been eliminated or canceled, it's very difficult for me to say to you, oh, and by the way, I'll pay you to stay home, but I have other opportunities for you. And so I've challenged the directors to look hard at how we can provide meaningful work, and that's an important word, meaningful work, for the employees, so that we're able to continue at least through the end of this month. Ultimately, I can tell you that we'll look at running out of some of that work, and what we do at that point, I don't know. We'll have to gather and figure it out. But right now, I've got confidence in the directors. There's plenty of work. Quick shout out to TDOT, actually Transportation Mobility, sorry, Diana, and also to Parks for helping us with the call center, the hotline. We've got 20 folks that are answering calls daily. And by the way, that's every day of the week, including weekends, to try to get the information out to the public about our city services. Question is, will we be reimbursed for personally purchased office supplies from home? I couldn't tell you. What I would say to you is keep track of that. We'll put that in with all the rest of the expenses that we're incurring right now, and we'll see what we can do to cover that. But I can't guarantee you. I just can't guarantee that at this point. Now let's see here. There's a long question. By the way, if you send me long questions, it's hard. It's hard for me to read through them. It's really about sanitizing protocol in place, and I think that the guidance that's been provided us so far has been pretty clear. Make sure you're washing your hands. Make sure you're using hand sanitizer. Make sure you're keeping your distance, etc. I can tell you that we are in short supply, particularly in some of our areas where we're trying to sanitize things daily and right after events, those kinds of things. Although we've scaled back in terms of closing playgrounds and some of the public facilities, we're still running low on some of those sanitizing products. But we're certainly, I'm really proud of our procurement folks. Thanks, Laura, and your team for continuing to beat the bushes, if you will, to get us the stuff we need. And so I don't know what else to tell you other than just stay on it. Please don't waste it. It's there to be used, but please be mindful that there's a lot of other folks that need it as well. A question about non-perms eligibility for leave. So non-perms are eligible for leave. It's a prorated share. Again, I'll refer you back to my April 1 note. But if you're a non-perm, you will be eligible for leave at a prorated level, and you can look at the detail there. And by the way, on some of those, I'm sure that we can get into more detail in a more formal response down the road. So downtown employees working from home, will we still have parking fees deducted? I don't know. I assume so. But at this point, let's just try to get through the end of the month, and then I'll figure that one out. I appreciate your patience on that. If we were missing work due to a child's school being closed, is that time going to be taken from our personal leave time? So you are eligible under and I'll call it the 3 pots of leave: the city pandemic leave, the 80 hour, which is 80 hours, the 80 hours that is based on the order from the governor, and then there's an additional number of weeks that's at a reduced salary. That's 2/3 of the salary. So you would have to use a 30-year salary if you are caring for a child going forward. I'll get you some more info on that. And I think the best way to do that is to try to give you scenarios so that you can then hopefully pick one of the scenarios that meets your situation. So thanks, Elsa. She actually corrected. It's Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So thanks, Elsa. Appreciate it. Let's see if there's. So instead of taking time and need to take care of kids, should they be providing laptops to work from home? I assume when you say they, you mean us or me. The short answer is sure. If that's something that you can do, if you can provide your work from home or remotely, absolutely. But I can also tell you, and a quick shout out to Colin and the IT staff, they've been amazing. To go to a virtual city service across the board is truly amazing. And we've had very, very few glitches. I know that the vast majority of the issues have been just the amount of laptops. Colin had ordered 150 last week. I think they got those in on Saturday and ordered another 100. So those are being distributed to departments. And I can tell you that they are for those folks that can do telecommuting and remote work. So if the pandemic is considered over and we have only as part of our pandemic leave, is it done? I don't know at this point. When is it over? I don't know that anybody can really tell. At this point, my horizon for the city pandemic leave is through the end of the calendar year. So I'm expecting that will be available through December 31st. And we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. At this point, I'm just trying to get through the end of April, and then we'll figure it out. Same or similar question. If I don't use it, do I lose it? The short answer is I don't know. Please don't hoard it. It's there for you to use. So if you need it, please use it. And again, I don't know what's going to happen at the end of the year, but at this point, my horizon for that leave is the end of the year. What are the stipulations under each act as far as who qualifies, et cetera? I'd refer you back to the employee resource page, as well as the federal the posters that we distributed to each of the departments. There's various criteria, so I'd encourage you to take a look at that. If you have a specific question on that, and what I would just suggest is, what is it you're trying to do? And if it doesn't fall or doesn't appear to fall into that, then send a question about your specific situation, and we'll try to get back to you. I'm a new employee and need to know if I qualify for the Response Act. Question, or the answer is I really don't know. I apologize. Depends on when you started. Generally speaking, if you've been here longer than 30 days, the answer is maybe or probably, but I don't know. Please send a specific note with your start date, and we'll try to respond to you directly. Megan just sent a note saying, do we have to exhaust our personal and sick vacation leave before using city and federal leave? The answer is no. Now that's a little bit of a change, not a little bit, that's a lot of a change actually. Originally and initially, when I'd sent out a note about the 104 hours, I'd said that you had to burn up all of your existing leave balances before you could use that. That is no longer the case for the 80 hours of city pandemic and the 80 hours of federal leave. I will tell you that in addition to the 80 hours and the city pandemic, as well as the 80 hours of the federal, we have an additional 24 hours of what we're calling negative leave. So you can actually dip negative on your leave balance. That is to be repaid based on your accrual rate. But as far as using, in order for you to qualify for the 24 hours, you do have to burn through all of your leave. Question is, can we work part-time and then use pandemic leave? The other half, the answer is yes, but I'm going to qualify that. Please look at the rules for the use of the leave. The city leave is a little less restrictive. The federal leave is a little more restrictive. Just make sure that you're looking at that. If you have a question, ask your HR satellite or send me a note and we'll try to get back to you on that. More question about child school, etc. Again, those are covered. You can use up your leaves for that. That is an appropriate use. So question is, PPE and disinfecting wipes, hand sanitizers being put under lock and key. How can the city assure there is enough to go around while I still have to report to work? My guarantee to you is we're going to keep close tabs on it. We haven't had this problem in any city facilities, but I can tell you in some of our parks and some of our other public facilities, people were stealing toilet paper. They were taking toilet paper and soap and that. So we just want to make sure that we do have enough for those that need it. So right now I have not heard any report that we don't have enough of that for folks that are having to report to work. Question about tuition reimbursement was ended temporarily. That's just temporary. I can also tell you that because I'm not sure what the future holds with regard to our budget, I have instituted a hiring freeze. I've also told the directors they need to scale back expenses. So all expenses out there really need to be scrutinized. And at least for now, tuition reimbursement is on hold. I do see that will come back at some point in the future, but I can't give you any kind of guarantee beyond the end of the month. All right, let me keep reading through here. Can I speak to the contracted employees that were let go? So that was a directive that I gave to the directors. Basically told them they needed to look at all contractors and consultants immediately as a reduction in expenses. Those are the realities that we're faced with. And since I do see that we're going to be struggling, at least for the foreseeable future, I needed to make some tough calls, and I made that one. Let me just keep reading through here. Question, will the hours from the acts be retroactive for people who have been called out already due to childcare, etc.? The short answer is yes, but again, it's qualified. Please look hard at that. I know that some of you were already on your own leave. There is an opportunity for you to use the city 80 hours. I believe there is not an opportunity for retro of the federal leave. I think that was effective on April 1. But the city 80 hours, you can go back and make a change to your leave. So if you wanted to take advantage of that, you can do that. So it's if my HR department is giving me answers, who can I contact? I would just say to you, keep going through that. That's who I'm going to go to and find out how we can answer these questions. And again, I'll take as many of them as I can and respond to them by Tuesday. And what I'm thinking is I'd like to give you an update Tuesday, close of business, and then again on Friday. Depending on your response to this virtual town hall, we may do these a couple times a week until this is over, whatever over means. All right, so I'm going to keep going here. Question is the plan to definitely telecommute through 4:30 for those of us who can? Absolutely. At this point, I don't see any change to the virtual city services through the end of the month. The mayor's proclamation is through the 17th of April, which happens to be the Monday before that. I'm sorry, it's the week before, excuse me. I'm expecting that we will stay under order to telecommute and provide virtual city services through the end of the month. So at this point, you need to be prepared to continue doing this through the end of the month. How are you ensuring that all employees are given the consideration of telecommuting if IT has not been able to complete the setup on my city computer to date? All I can tell you is IT is doing the best they can. They have been great in terms of on the macro scale, making sure that our systems are up and running. You may have an issue with your particular situation, your setup, but I can tell you that on a macro scale, we're having to push hard. I can tell you a week ago, I had never used Teams. Actually, a week and a half ago, never used Teams. Today, that's all I use, and we've gotten pretty efficient and effective at sharing docs, etc. I'm very pleased with how quickly people have learned and gone to the Outlook. Migration has gone overall well, and people are just learning as we go. So I appreciate everybody's willingness to be flexible and move through that. I would encourage you to keep pinging on the folks if you're not getting good service there. Ping their help desk. They're ultra responsive, and I'd encourage you to do that. Related question, can the 80 hours be sporadically? The answer, I think I answered that, is yes. It doesn't all have to be at one time. Question is, how is Outlook and MS Teams working? I just mentioned, I think they're going pretty well, at least for me. They're going well. It is tough because oftentimes we're used to the physical contact, or, well, that's not the right word, sorry, the physical interaction with folks. And it's tough. It's almost cold, but it definitely is helping us to keep things moving. Keep in mind, we have to keep the city services provided, and we've got to keep going down that path. Has anyone tested positive here at the city? I do not know that, and if I did, I probably couldn't tell you, but I do not know of anyone right this minute. Sorry, I'm still reading through these. I think I've answered most of these. What are my biggest concerns regarding the current crisis and its long-term impacts on our local economy? Joyce Garland and I have sat and chatted many times about this. So here's the approach that I'm taking. I'm making the assumption that we're going to see a drop in revenues. We've already seen a small drop from our February revenues. We're going to see a pretty dramatic drop in both March and April, and probably through May. So those 3 months, I'm expecting to see serious drops in our revenue. If that's the only thing we see, then I think we'll be okay. But if the recovery lags, I can tell you that'll be a bigger challenge for us in the coming year. The mayor has established a resiliency fund, which is really a concept where she is pooling resources from both the private sector and the public sector to address the economy. Everything from small business loans to how we shore up our housing folks. And by the way, shout out to all of our housing folks. Liz, you and your team doing amazing work out there. Thank you. But not only the housing for folks that are currently in housing, but what do we do with a potential increase in homelessness or houselessness and those kinds of issues, but also the nonprofit community. And so the mayor's team is looking, working closely with us and looking at how we can pool all of the resources that are within the community to address those issues. And I can tell you that there's no one answer. I'm really pleased with people stepping up. We're taking advantage of our partnerships with Pima County, with the Regional Economic Development folks, with the nonprofit community foundation. We've had many discussions across the board about how we're going to partner to make sure that our local economy does not suffer like what we've seen elsewhere. Is that a guarantee? Absolutely not. But I do know that if we all are staying focused and pushed, hard on pushing each other hard on what you can bring to the game, then we're going to be in good shape. So Lane, I just realized that I was on the new questions, so I was trying to scroll through them, and now I'm over on publish, so I can try to figure out how to maneuver through that. So see, we're all learning how to do this. Let's see. Just so you know, we have about 850 people so far joining us, and we appreciate you taking time to do that. I hope that you find this useful, and we'll certainly keep going down the path. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm just reading through this. You could call that the awkward silence, right? One of the questions, I don't see it here, but I got it. And by the way, I appreciate it. I've been getting questions. And a quick shout out to Chief Magnus and his ELT group. They gave me a great list of questions. So thanks, Chris, for your leadership on that. I appreciate it, and Chad as well. One of the questions that I've been asked is, do those folks that we don't have work for now, and we're having to institute the city pandemic leave as well as the federal leave, are they automatics if we were to go to layoffs? The answer is no. Just because someone doesn't have work right this second does not mean that they would be on layoff status going forward. I'm not going to guarantee you that, but that is not, you shouldn't equate those two at this point. Question, what alternatives work schedules are you considering? You name it, we're up for it. And I can tell you that going back to, I was talking to City Attorney Mike Rankin about his scheduling of employees, and what he's doing is actually kind of splitting them up. So one, they can practice social distancing as well as make the leave last longer. So I'm expecting that we will see some real creative work schedules where it could be that some of the functions are performed remotely part of the time, and then having to go in the office as well. I know that, again, shout out to payroll. Every 2 weeks, those are our favorite folks, right? And so we need to make sure they have the tools to do their job, but also that they can provide it in a safe manner. Can you talk a little bit more about the new leave from the federal government as compared to our leave? I guess the best thing I can suggest to you on that is the leave, the city's pandemic leave has less restrictions than does the federal government. Excuse me. Federal government leave has more restrictions, and I call your attention to the information I sent out before. There are some, I'll call it if-then statements that are included in that. And so it's just a little more restrictive than ours. Ours is a little more liberal. And quite frankly, quick shout out again to the mayor and council. I told them that I was going to go down that path. They were all supportive, and they have been true leaders in this, making sure that they're giving us the environment to be successful. Let's see here. Thanks, Diane. I appreciate your comment there. Let's see here. Okay, I think I'm running out of questions unless you guys have more. Oh, I got a council member. Hey, Nikki, Councilmember Lee's on. Just wanted to pass along that she is really proud of the fact that we've all been agile and adapting during this time. She wants you all to know that we're going to make it through this, and we are behind everyone. So thank you, Nikki. Appreciate those words of encouragement. By the way, Nikki is Councilmember Lee, I guess I shouldn't call you by the first name for your first name. Sorry about that. Councilmember Lee is Ward 4. Question is, will the 80 hours be posted in Kronos? I know you guys know I love Kronos. No, I don't. So I know that there's leave codes that have been established. So please work through your HR satellite. I know that Anna and her team have been working to establish those. So please work through that. But I do know that I just saw something that came across that they're talking about the codes that have been established for that. Can you address utilities and shutoffs for anyone who can't pay? So you may know that we have held off on any shutoffs of water. So water shutoffs are not going to occur. And I'm going to just say not going to occur for the foreseeable future. I think our initial thought was through April, but just for the foreseeable future. I believe that TEP and Southwest Gas may be doing something similar. I don't know for sure on their end. I can only speak to ours with certainty. And by the way, Tim and your staff, thank you guys for what you do. It's amazing to watch you all do your jobs in this tough environment. So thanks, Tim and his staff at Water. Let's see here. Can the city establish a policy by April 17th to allow BBC meetings to move forward formally? So Maria is asking a question. We've shut down all of the boards and commissions, and that's really making it tough on us as a group to do our business. So we're having to figure out how we can do meetings virtually. I can tell you that council had their first ever virtual / call-in meeting a couple weeks ago. It was not ideal. It's hard, like these are, when you're not present. But I can tell you that we have to figure out something very quickly so that we can continue to move business forward. So thanks for that question, Maria. Tara, a quick shout out to IT. Thank you, Tara, for that. They've been really helpful. Appreciate that. Question is TP has a policy that field personnel must wear masks. Do we have something similar? The answer is not right this second. I can tell you that we'll probably do something similar down the road, but right now I can't tell you for sure. I'm just looking here. All right, I'm running out of questions here, so I'm good with it. If you guys are done, I'm good with that. I don't see any questions. Just kind of looking through these really quick here. So Carlos just sent me a note. Carlos, I'm sorry, you're right. Our sanitation workers, particularly those that are on the front lines of picking up trash and working the landfill, can't forget about them. They're again doing some amazing work for us. It was actually kind of nice. Lane, maybe you can post on Facebook for folks to see the sign that was a handwritten sign that was put out by some residents thanking the ES drivers. So maybe put that up. I mean, people are really appreciative of what's going on across the board. So thanks, Carlos, for the reminder. And I apologize to the ES drivers and to all of the folks at facilities. I saw facilities working out of City Hall, and I saw this facility folks working, doing their job, taking care of business. So I appreciate it. Stacy's asking a question about employees accruing their own leave while they're on using city and federal pandemic. The answer is yes. You will continue to accrue city leave. Let's see here. Currently experiencing long wait times for essential supplies at COT stores. Perhaps they need additional help. Excellent thought. So that's probably a logistics issue. I know that Joe Galato over at Fire has been working to help with the logistics across the board, and he has asked for some help. So if you're seeing lines today, hopefully you won't see them long, because Joe's getting help from some of the folks that aren't able to work remotely. Question about for those still working who use Suntran services, do you know if there is a schedule change? If so, will Parkwise suspend charges at meters and garages? So we're working through all that. I can tell you that our ridership is down very dramatically. I'm not sure what the outcome of that is. I know Diana and her team put together some recommendations. I'm still looking at those, and I'll let you know, but I don't know right this minute. I don't see that we will shut down the transit system, just because there are still a lot of people who use it for groceries, for medical, for work, and I don't see that. But I do think there might be an opportunity to reduce some of the try to do something with the schedule to reduce some of the empty buses going on. So I am seeing some comments coming through both on my email as well as text. Says this is a question. I tried to register and it's full. Wow, that's a nice problem to have. So we'll have to figure that out. Lane, not sure how many we've got right now, but if we're full, we're going to have to expand this if folks want to use this medium as a way to communicate. Question is, are we allowed to enter City Hall to get notes, paper, etc.? Absolutely. You need to just be careful, make sure you wash your hands, etc. I can tell you that I just went last evening to pick up some of my stuff. And so just try to, again, practice social distancing. Make sure you're cognizant of what you touch, wash your hands, and use sanitizer, etc. We encourage staff to use pandemic leave as necessary, but what happens to unused pandemic leave hours when things settle? Again, I'll let you know once things settle. Right now, I'm thinking hard about how we are going to get through the next few months. Liz Macias, I know you sent me an email. I'm not sure what's going on with your questions, but when everything is over, what are we putting in place to assist customers to get back on track? I don't know right this minute. That's all part of the team's effort to identify not only on the macro community scale, but also on the micro level in terms of some of our services. Regarding the hiring freeze, if we're slated to pass our 1-year probation this month, congratulations, by the way. Will we still be able to? At this point, I would say so. I wish I could tell you that predict the future. At this point, I see no reason that you wouldn't pass your probation. So thank you for your service. And by the way, the reason I don't read those names is because those are call-in folks or folks that show up as anonymous on my screen here. Can we take city property home to perform our job? The answer is yes, but be careful with that. There's rules for that. Please make sure that you're talking to your supervisor. Don't just assume you can take everything home. Make sure that your supervisor knows exactly what you're up to and work with them. Again, that's all part of our responsibilities, is to make sure that we're being responsive as best we can. And thanks, Mary. So Mary Trejo just sent me a note. Public defenders, quick shout out. I know that your team, Mary's working hard to get folks released for treatment and housing. Thank you for reminding me of that, and a lot of stuff going on, and the whole court system. I know Mike Rankin's prosecutors. I saw one of them yesterday, actually. I know that they're working hard to try to maneuver through this. This is a very uncertain time on a macro scale, and everybody's doing the best they can. So thank you for all that are courts and courts related. Is the city considering offering incentives to retirement for employees who are eligible? So I don't know. Again, I'm trying to get through the end of the month. I'll let you know as time goes on. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make light of that, but you know, I've heard that there's people that are patiently waiting for that, and I don't know because I think that a lot of it will depend on what our future looks like in terms of our revenues and so forth, and I can't tell you right now. Where can we check our lead balances? I don't know. I know that you have to be connected to the city internet, but I'll see if we can figure out a way for you to check your stuff beyond that. If I don't have hours and would like to take leave, would I then be under leave without pay? Up to 24 hours, you would be able to take leave with pay, and then as a part of your accrual, you would pay those back. Is there a plan for putting city employees in a position to assist nonprofits or hospitals? We're working on that. I don't think that there is a straight answer on that at this point, but I can tell you that the nonprofits in some areas have lost a lot of their volunteers. Their volunteers happen to be in the high risk groups in those ages, and so they're really struggling. And so we're working closely, and we'll continue to do so as time goes on. Colin just sent me a note reminding everybody that Kronos is available on the internet, so you can log in remotely on the Kronos, and you can check lead balances at that point. Thanks, Colin. Appreciate it. Colin's our CIO, so thanks, Colin. Appreciate it. Thanks, Fabian. I appreciate that comment. So how is social distancing being enforced, as well as sanitation for the public transit system? So we've instituted a 6-foot separation from the drivers. We are providing them with gloves. We do not have masks for them at this very moment. I think that ultimately we're going to look at how the whole system works. We are forcing folks to come in from the rear so that they're not walking by the driver. So that's what we're doing right this minute. There is a separation, a 6-foot separation that's demarcated. I think it's either a yellow tape or a bar or something. I'm not sure exactly, but I know that they are actually telling people they can't be within that. Will superiors be held accountable for employees who use pandemic leave so it's not being abused? Example, employees just not wanting to go to work. So that's an issue that we've struggled with. I don't mind telling you. My guidance to the directors has been we need to hold people accountable, but the flip side is I'm going to err on the side of assuming people are doing what they're supposed to be doing and using the leave as appropriate. If I don't mind telling you, if I find out that we've got some people abusing it and I can identify them, I will deal with them probably myself very severely. Because I really believe strongly that the entirety of this organization is one that demonstrates integrity and honor. And if we have folks that don't abide by that, they really shouldn't be working here. And I will deal with that myself. Should admin staff be reporting to work every day to check the mail? I would suggest to you, talk to your supervisor, your department head. I think that that's the best advice I can give you. We are quarantining mail for 24 hours, so as it comes in, before it's distributed, it's held. Tim, thanks for your leadership on that. And so then you can have a conversation with your folks. By the way, if you're interested, the Kronos home link, probably from Colin, is kronos.tucsonaz.gov/WFC/navigator/log-on. Let's see here. Somebody asked, with parks and amenities being closed down, are groundskeepers still reporting to work? I know some are, because we've got plenty of work for them to do. We'll keep getting on it. So we are running short on time. I appreciate that you all are participating. Lane, if you can send me a quick note, how many did we end up having online? The other thing is, if you could let me know, either through the city manager email or through your supervisor or director, if these are of value. If they are, we can do them more often. I think we've worked out a lot of the kinks. I'm sorry that initially some of the audio was choppy. We can certainly try to do these, and my thought was to do them twice a week to keep you up to date. Total number, according to the wizards behind the scenes here, is 861. So thank you all for participating. With that, I'm going to sign off. Again, this will be posted, and we'll go from there. Again, thank you for participating. Have a great day. Bye.